Hello, this is Jaw1LA. I'm John.
I'm JD Blake.
And we are reading our one-year Bible, and we are looking at John chapter 19, 23 through 42. Death is always a tragic reality. I think there's something in all of us that realizes that we're not made for death. And here is the death of Jesus, clearly and plainly and directly presented. And it starts off with the crucifixion. Jesus, the soldiers crucified Jesus. And after Jesus is crucified, he's not going to need his clothes. Hey, any material, when we die, whatever material things we have, we don't get to take them with us.
One thing I took from this passage today when I was reading it, I was realizing that a bunch of Old Testament prophecies were being fulfilled, and it points that out. And one thing I couldn't help but noticing is that while he's being crucified, the Pharisees were attending, to make sure that his death was completed. And what I was thinking in the back of my mind was, with all these prophecies being fulfilled, that some of them must have been at least apparent to the Pharisees. And they, of course, from in their heart of hearts, that they must have known that this was really the Christ, and that they still kept on crucifying him and didn't stop, in order that they must have wanted to continue their power, because they realized that with Christ, ushering in his kingdom, that they would lose their own power.
Yeah, power is often blind. I mean, I've seen that, and I even, when I've had a vested interest in something,
Right.
That's the time I didn't listen to my sister, and she was right. I wanted to be in control and didn't pay attention to the details. I mean, even silly things like I'm driving the car and my wife is telling me which way to go, but I'm the one with the wheels. I'm the man with the
Right.
There's a way in which
Delusion of power,
being in control, does something to the way we perceive.
Right.
So, but I hear you in that. And it's like it was obvious enough that John takes the time to record it for us in the midst of these very plain and direct events. So you have the next direct event, which is like, the soldiers say he's not going to need his clothes, so they gamble for Jesus' clothes. And now Mary, Jesus is not going to be around to take care of Mary. So Jesus says to his disciple John, "John, this is your mother. And Mom, this is your son." There was no social security system. So he made a situation where make sure that his mom is taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Fortunately, though, that wasn't the end for Christ. He did come back and rise, but like you said, physically he needed someone to take care of his mother, but it wasn't the end for him.
Yeah. Then, it's a pretty profound thing. At this point, he says, "It is finished." And then he gave up his spirit. There's this thing where, the Pharisees were wrapped up in their own tradition, their own situation, their own context. And so they're more concerned about, we don't want these dead bodies up,
right?
For the Sabbath. So let's get this over with. Let's get these legs broken and get this death done. And then you have the testimony of Jesus being pierced, and blood and water mixed together running out.
Which is also another prophecy fulfilled, right?
Yeah. It's another sign of prophecy fulfilled, and it's also really clear evidence to saying, by the way, for those people who, weren't that Jesus was really dead. This is not like, this is pretty clear evidence by the description. Anyone who understands medically what happens in crucifixion can tell that's what it would look like.
Right.
If somebody had actually suffocated through
Right.
crucifixion. And you're right. It says, like the prophecy, not one of his bones will be broken.
Right.
And now they've got to take care of the body. That's another thing that happens when people die, is that, you don't take your things with you.
Mm-hmm.
You leave people behind that need to be taken care of, and somehow some continued love or respect. And then there's a body. What are you going to do with the body? So here, they take the body and treat it with myrrh and aloe, about 100 pounds. Lots of little interesting details here.
Right.
I was like, okay, maybe more than I wanted to know about embalming.
I have another question. When he was born, and he got that myrrh from those three magi or whatever they were, was that the same myrrh that he had from his childhood? I thought.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Probably not the same, but symbolically, the meaning of that wouldn't have been lost.
Right.
Because myrrh was for, so you have these three gifts. It doesn't actually say three kings, but there's three gifts. And you have myrrh, frankincense, and gold.
Mm-hmm.
And myrrh is for burial.
Right.
That's what the purpose was for. And so it was a recognition that Jesus, in his kingship, that his death would have a significant role and meaning. Then you have this guy named Nicodemus. Nicodemus has a special role because he being a secret believer.
In a Pharisee.
Yeah. It's like, you ever been caught in situations where you're caught between two groups of people and, you really don't want, you're a little bit intimidated to let people know, hey, I'm one of these Jesus people too, I believe in God, I follow God, and you ever see in situations like that?
Like wasn't it Peter too that denied?
Yeah, Peter.
Like that.
Peter's like, no, and and Nicodemus is on the other side of the fence. He's still with this group that has power, and he's like, doesn't want people to know, but he's going to take care of Jesus' body. That's the least he can do.
Right.
Yeah.
That was kind.
Yeah, that was definitely kind. So, is there anything that, from this passage, looking at it, that you take away from it in terms of life?
Well, what I never read before in this passage, I didn't specifically remember, or at this time in the Bible when they're talking about his crucifixion, is all these little details of him, of the prophecy being fulfilled. I thought that was something new I took away from it. Yeah. And also keeping in fact in mind that, this isn't the end.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So if we become aware that there's a connection between Old Testament prophecy and what's happening with Christ, and Christ freely embraces his own death, we also can find something very beautiful in what the resurrection means. Because the death and resurrection wasn't just for him to go through it.
It's for us.
It was for us.